Hello, 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 and welcome back to another edition of Fan Talk, your favorite podcast by your favorite fan. That is, of course, me, Kyle Brenchley, in the house on this Tuesday. You know what they say, the club's going up on a Tuesday. That's a Drake song, and Kendrick Lamar was the halftime performance and threw a little shade at Drake. For those of you who like the tea, that was a lot hotter than anything Taylor Swift had to bring to the table. But welcome, welcome. We'll talk more about the Super Bowl and put a little wrap on the football here in just a minute. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy. The weather outside is frightful. The snow is coming down, and I'm watching it fall, which is great. It's February. It's not supposed to be warm. We need the moisture here in the 801. Guys, Fan Talks podcast by me, Kyle Brenchley. Good to meet you. If you're here for the first time, let me shake your hand. Returning all to those who are returning. Hello, how are you? This is a podcast you can find anywhere you get your podcast. I upload on YouTube as well. Just search Kyle Brenchley or Fan Talk, and I will be there. All right, guys, Rogue One. Hey, what's up? No candle burning today. No reason why. Just don't have it burning today. Let's put a little bow here on football. We've been talking about football since August. For 6 months, half the year. Man, if we look back at August, how far have we come? I've come a long way since August. Maybe you guys haven't. Maybe you guys are still sitting on your couch listening to me ramble on and on. Regardless, it's been incredible talking about football. It's always sad to see it go. It's always sad to see the end of a season come to an end, but it's good because now we're moving into basketball. We're going to be talking heavily college basketball and NBA basketball here in the next few months. We'll talk baseball in a couple months. It should be fun. So don't go anywhere. Things are going to be great. Stay tuned for more great content here on Fan Talk. Let your friends know, let your dogs know, let your fish know, let your crushes know. It is almost Valentine's Day this Friday. Let me know what you guys are doing down below for Valentine's Day. I think I'm going to watch the movie Valentine's Day. I watched it last year for the first time, and I liked it. I kind of like those movies now. I don't know if it's necessarily a rom-com, but kind of movies like that. I just watched Crazy Stupid Love with Steve Carell and Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling, Julianne Moore, and I really liked that one. It was pretty funny. So I have a weird movie taste. We'll get into that later. Now is the time to talk about football. Let's put a nice little ending to the story here. I could not have been happier. As you may know, and maybe if you don't know, if you're tuning in for the first time, the Kansas City Chiefs are not my favorite. Being a Denver Broncos fan, they are in the same division. Naturally, I don't like any team in the division. I don't like the Raiders, don't like the Chargers, don't like the Chiefs. So before they were even good, before Patrick Mahomes came along, before Andy Reid came along, before they were dominating the league, I was not a fan of them. And my disdain for them has only grown as they've gotten better and really established a dynasty. I really thought 100% that they were going to win. I thought they were going to three-peat. I thought they were going to be the first team ever to do it. But I think it just shows how hard that actually is. Nobody's ever done it before. Tom Brady never did it. Teams in the past never did it. Past dynasties never did it. So it's crazy incredible. I mean, the Eagles were the better team. The Eagles are more talented. The Eagles should win that game. A lot of people picked the Eagles to win. But I was just like, man, the Chiefs have, it's not even luck. It's just experience. They have just history on their side, right? And so I really thought they were going to do it. But I could not be more happy to see them lose and to get blown out. I know many of you are probably like, it wasn't that good of a game. I wish it was a closer game. Sure, why not? Whatever, believe that. But for me, there was nothing more satisfying than to see the Chiefs exposed. Best record in the NFL this year, but they were not the best team. They were not. If you watched them, and you probably did because they were on national television every other week, if not every week, you would see that they won by the skin of their teeth every single week. And you were wondering, how long was that going to last? Eventually, that does run out, and eventually that does catch up to you. I couldn't be more proud for the Eagles. I don't necessarily care for the Eagles. I'm not necessarily a fan. But Jalen Hurts went to Oklahoma. I'm a big fan of him. It's good to see Saquon Barkley playing well after having so many injuries and being on an abysmal Giants team. Nick Sirianni, some people think he's a clown. Good for him. Good for him, Good for the city of Philadelphia. They've had some issues over the years recently as well. But incredible Super Bowl. I'm not a big Kendrick Lamar fan. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below about the halftime show. I thought it was cool, but nothing special, nothing to write home about. And maybe it's because I'm not really a rap guy, like that's not really my thing. So it was kind of so for me. There was a few funny commercials. I don't know. I feel like the commercials are not as direct anymore, not as blatantly funny anymore. It could just be me as well. Maybe my humor has kind of changed now that I am no longer a child. So, but yeah, that's all I got to say about the NFL this season. What an incredible season. I look forward to next season. A lot of good things going for the Denver Broncos, a lot of good things going for a lot of these teams with young quarterbacks. Should be an exciting season. I think next season, I would really like to see the Lions in the Super Bowl. I know they've gotten close both years, but just haven't been able to take that final step. I'd really like to see the Lions in the Super Bowl. I'd really like to see if the Bills can get there or the Ravens. I'd really like to see someone but the Chiefs get there. Yeah, I'm glad the Chiefs lost, but I'd really just like to see another team beat them there. You know what I mean? Like for the Ravens or Bills, like that would just be great. Or obviously the Broncos might be a few years out still, but the Bills or the Ravens, if they could do that for the Lions on the NFC side, that would be great as well. But new season, all 32 teams theoretically have a chance at the Super Bowl. So we'll see. 2025 season, only 6.5 months away, probably more like 7 months away. So mark your calendars. All right, guys, let's talk basketball. And I wanted to talk about this last week, but obviously I was doing the Super Bowl preview. Let's talk about the crazy NBA trade deadline. So for your dummies, here's your little sports for dummies segment. NBA stands for National Basketball Association. I think you got that. Basketball, right? Professional basketball. They have a trade deadline, and most leagues have a trade deadline where you can no longer make trades. You have to make all trades by this deadline. And usually how it goes in all sports is the week or even a couple days leading up to the trade deadline is when all the trades happen. Like there's a couple that happened in November, December, January, but they all kind of happen that first week of February, right before the trade deadline. And this might have been the craziest trade deadline ever, at least in my recent memory. If I have some people who can think of a crazier trade deadline, let me know down below. But I think this one was the craziest. A lot of blockbuster trades. And let's start with this one. It's been 9 days since this happened, and I really wanted to talk about this sooner. I only do the nature of this podcast is that it's only once a week. And if I did do it more regularly, I would have talked about this, but just I'm working a job and I have other obligations, and this is really just a hobby right now. And perhaps if it was a main source of income or even a side source of income, then I could probably produce more. But as of right now, the nature of this podcast is that it's just once a week, kind of more of a hobby rather than, a monetary thing. But going back to this blockbuster trade 9 days ago, I couldn't believe this. And many of you probably couldn't believe this either. For the dummies, usually you don't trade your best player unless your team is so bad that this player wants to go play for a championship and you can get a bunch of things for him. But in this case, that wasn't the situation. This trade happened between the Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Lakers. Both teams are in the playoffs right now if the playoffs started today. Both teams are good teams. Both teams are not struggling. It's not like they needed to unload their star to get draft picks and to rebuild. So the Dallas Mavericks traded, and the Dallas Mavericks were the ones that initiated this. They were the ones behind all of this. Absolutely crazy, blows everyone's mind. They trade Luka Doncic, their young superstar from Slovenia. He's only 25 years old. He's my age. He's 25 years old. Superstar. He was supposed to be the Mavericks' end game, for another 12, 13, 14 years. They trade Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first-round pick in 2029. And you're listening to this and you're like, it's been 9 days, so it's not, maybe the shock has worn off a little bit. Luka did play debut of the Lakers last night against the Utah Jazz. He did pretty well, honestly. It'll be interesting to see how he fits with LeBron, because both those guys are kind of like the ball is in my hands, I'm the guy kind of a thing. But it'll be kind of interesting to see LeBron. He is like 40 years old, so you would think that he only has only so much more time left, right? But it'll be interesting to see, at least when they're together, kind of what happens there. I should also mention that the Jazz got in on this deal. The Jazz have been kind of getting their fingers in on all these deals. They get Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 second-round picks in 2025. Absolutely crazy. Anthony Davis made his debut for the Mavericks on Sunday, I believe. Sunday or Saturday, and he got hurt. Surprise, surprise. And the Lakers are now sitting pretty with LeBron, Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves. They still have a solid roster. They have JJ Redick coaching them. I might just pick the Lakers as my NBA Finals favorites if I were to say right now after this trade. Absolutely crazy. But that wasn't the only trade. Obviously, there were a lot more trades here. Let's talk about probably the next craziest one, maybe the biggest name on the market, biggest name that was getting rumors. Well, Kevin Durant was, but I don't believe that was really ever going to materialize. I think anything, it was kind of we're thinking about this, but obviously it didn't go through, so they didn't push hard enough. But let's talk about Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, and I talked about him 2 weeks ago, about the diva and kind of the roller coaster that we've been on with Jimmy Butler. So he did get traded to the Golden State Warriors. I did not suspect this. I knew the Warriors were one of the front runners, but a report came out that the Heat didn't want to make a deal. Jimmy Butler didn't want to play for the Warriors. So I thought that was real. But obviously people change their minds. Happens all the time. So the Golden State Warriors get Jimmy Butler. And he played for them, was it Saturday? He debuted for them on Saturday. Scored, I think, 25, 26 points. Did pretty well. The Heat, in return, got Kyle Anderson, Davion Mitchell, and Andrew Wiggins, plus a first-round pick in 2025. So a pretty good load back. Not bad for a guy who obviously is a superstar, but is getting older and wasn't showing up to practice, didn't want to be there. So you might as well get him out of there and get Kyle Anderson, a solid bench guy, Davion Mitchell, a solid bench guy, Andrew Wiggins, you probably start him or have him come off the bench, and then a first-round pick in 2025. Super dope. A lot of people, a lot of teams had their hands in the cookie jars on this one. Dennis Schroeder goes to the Pistons along with Lindy Waters III. The Jazz, of course, are invested in this one. They get KJ Martin from the Rockets and Josh Richardson from the Heat and a 2028 second-round pick. And the Raptors get PJ Tucker and a 2026 second-round pick plus cash considerations. So that was pretty wild as well. I think that was supposed to be kind of the headline of this trade deadline. Where was Jimmy Butler going to go? But with the Luka Anthony Davis trade, it kind of, I want to say took a backseat, but they're both up there as kind of the big headlines. I'd say the third craziest one, and there's many, many more, and we'll talk about him, but the third craziest one is, and maybe kind of flying under the radar a little bit, De'Aaron Fox got traded from the Sacramento Kings, their young superstar. They sent him and Jordan McLaughlin to the San Antonio Spurs for Zach LaVine, Sadi Sissoko, and a bunch of picks. That's what the Kings get. The Bulls were obviously involved in on this trade. That's how Zach LaVine came in. So the Kings get Zach LaVine from Chicago. Chicago gets Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Huerter, plus a first-round pick in 2025 via San Antonio. And the Kings get a ton of picks. So I like this trade. Who do I think it best suits? Honestly, probably the Sacramento Kings, I would say. Just looking at this from a future perspective, they get a first-round pick in 2025, in 2027, in 2031, a second-round pick in 2025, and 2 second-round picks in 2028. Plus, they get Zach LaVine. I mean, he is getting up there, but he's still got a couple more years left. Sadi Sissoko as well. And they already have some great players there in Sacramento. I think the Spurs one is also intriguing because you team Victor Wembanyama up with De'Aaron Fox. You still have Chris Paul there probably for another year or two maybe. So maybe right now the Spurs win this trade, but in looking forward, I think the Kings definitely win this trade. And then the Bulls did get some good players, gets a first-round pick as well. So I think that one kind of flew under the radar. De'Aaron Fox, always kind of flying under the radar. A great, great talent. Many great years ahead of him. Should be interesting to see. And there's a ton more trades I could go through here. I just want to talk about one more trade that is pretty interesting that I wasn't suspecting. I don't know if any of you were suspecting it either. But this trade happened between the Milwaukee Bucks, the Washington Wizards, and the New York Knicks. So the Milwaukee Bucks get Kyle Kuzma from the Wizards, Patrick Baldwin Jr., and Jericho Sims from the Knicks, plus second-round draft compensation. The Wizards get Chris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, and a first-round pick in 2028, and the Knicks get DeLon Wright and cash considerations. So Kyle Kuzma, I remember during the offseason, his name was kind of flying out there as where was he going to sign? He ultimately did take the money and re-signed with Washington. But a lot of people were like, oh, where's he going to sign? Where's he going to go? I don't quite remember where some of the landing spots for him were. I don't remember if Milwaukee was one of them. I don't think it was. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But Milwaukee get Kyle Kuzma, which is a young star. Pair him with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Pair him with Damian Lillard. It's a brand new team there in Milwaukee. You know, they've moved away from Chris Middleton, who's been there forever. They've moved away from Jrue Holiday, obviously. They still have Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, but a very different team from the team that won the 2021 NBA Finals. Perhaps they're trying to, turn a new page. Giannis is obviously their key piece, and they're just building around him. I think it's a good trade. I think the Bucks have taken a step back, a huge step back, honestly, from their 2021 and even 2022 seasons. And, add a young guy like Kyle Kuzma, add some depth at that big man with Patrick Baldwin and Jericho Sims. And who knows, Damian Lillard could get hot. Giannis, if he gets healthy, they could make a run. They could. Interesting that Chris Middleton's getting shipped off to the Wizards. I don't know how long he'll stay there. Wizards are a young team. They're focused on the future and building up these young guys. They're currently in a rebuild. I think year 3 of a rebuild, year 2 maybe. So I don't know. They might turn around and get rid of him. I don't know his contract. I don't know if he becomes a free agent. I'd have to look into that. But kind of interesting that they moved on from Chris Middleton. He is injured right now, so he hasn't been playing. But, you never quite know. So, yeah, let me know your craziest reaction, what you thought the craziest trade was at this trade deadline. For me and for many of you, I'm sure it's the Luka to LA and Anthony Davis to Dallas. Jimmy Butler to Golden State, I wasn't planning on. I love Jimmy Butler, but now it's like hard to root for him because it's not like I hate Golden State, but I'm like, they were kind of that team that went to the NBA Finals for years and years, so I'm not going to ever root for him, you know what I mean? And then, Kyle Kuzma to the Bucks for Chris Middleton and some other things. So let me know what you guys think down below. As always, please hit me up on social media if you have questions or ideas. If you want to be on the podcast, if you want to talk about something specific, I'll talk about anything sports related. If you have an idea, please reach out to me, contact me. We'll try to make something happen. I would love to have more guests on the show, and I'm sure you guys would too, to get more perspective than just this long-haired, bearded boy who just talks about the weather, talks about Rogue One, and talks about sports like he knows what he's talking about. So, let me know for sure. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching and or listening to Fan Talk. This podcast you can get anywhere you get your podcast. I'm also on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you like and want to be subscribed. Pretty self-explanatory there, but go have a great week. Go have a fun Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to all of y'all, and I'll see you guys next week for another edition of Fan Talk.